Success comes only to those who act. However, success do not come just because you acted. This is the third video on our success series. So let's try to figure out this seemingly confusing statement. If you have a great idea and if you have a sense of what is success for you in this time of your life, if this great idea is aligned with that, you are in a good place. However, you need to act. Unless you take an action, nothing will be done. What sort of action? It depends on the great idea. It could be creating something, it could be connecting with somebody else, it could be acquiring some wealth, it could be acquiring some knowledge. So the action would depend on where are you now in your life and what sort of things are needed for this great idea to manifest in reality. Now, when you take an action, you're taking this action based on who you are now, what you can do now, and the knowledge you have now and the competencies you have now. In this moment, you take the action based on all these. The action that you come up with also would depend on these factors. Who you are, what you know, what you can do, and what you're capable of doing. This may or may not result in what you wanted, what you assumed might happen as the end result. This is not a bad thing, and that's how success comes through. Now you will have to learn. You will have to figure out, what do I have to learn here? Do you have to rethink your big idea? Do you have to rethink your action? Do you have to do something else? Do you have to modify what you did? So success is a learning journey. It's not a one-off action. If your success is aligned with relationships, then you'll have to learn a lot about communicating, listening, understanding other person's emotions, understanding how to respond to different emotions, understanding what others says, because people communicate differently. Other people do not use the same tonality and words that you use to express the same idea. Understanding how to say yes and no, and when to say yes and no, and when to yield, when to resist. So relationships, and when you learn all that with one person, and if you want to have similar level relationship with another person, you might have to go through the same journey. Because it's a different person, different ways, different expectations, different communications. If you want to achieve some sort of a spiritual goal, maybe spiritual enlightenment, maybe connecting with the community, maybe a connection with the divine, you would get some guidance from your teachers, but then you'll have to go along that journey, do things that is being prescribed, maybe to meditate, maybe to pray, maybe to worship, maybe to develop some sort of a devotion. Different journeys have different awakening, enlightenment journeys have different methodologies and techniques. Some might work for you, some might not. Then you'll have to start learning. If you want to be wealthy and abundant, you'll have to again start taking actions. And these are different things, but the structure remains the same. You start from where you are, what you know, what you can do, and you take an action. And from that feedback, you figure out what you'll have to learn, what you'll have to be able to do, and how do you have to transform yourself. When I say yourself, or when I say myself, what I mean here is the kind of internal composition that you have, kind of things you believe, kind of things you value, kind of biases that you have, thinking biases that you have. Thinking bias, for example, in a given moment, do you stop to think all possible options, or do you just take any action? A lot of the time people would tell one or the other is better. One or the other, sometimes yes, think a little before you act, and sometimes act now. You would have a bias towards them, but you need to use this in the right time with the right amount. If you just act without thinking in moments that you need to think, you're going to get bad results. And there will be other opportunities where if you act now, you would get better results. And if you're considering all possible options, delaying when others take advantage of that, you're not in a good place. So you would have a bias, and sometimes you'll have to overcome that thinking bias. You'll have to acquire new skills to overcome your thinking bias. So that is you, the things you believe, things you value, thinking biases that you have, the expectations, the things that you think are good, things that you think are bad. So all these things come together to make who you are. So that is different from your competencies, the things you are able to do. A competency would be something like your ability to play a musical instrument, your ability to sing, your ability to assess a financial value of a certain financial product. You, like, say, for instance, if you are into NFTs, and how do you assess the financial value? Is it a viable product? So that is a skill, that's a competency. And that competency is different from who you are. Because competencies you can acquire, they are much easier to learn. Who you are, you can change over time. It demands changing yourself require a bit more professional help than acquiring a new skill. Acquiring a new skill would also need professional help, but the kind of skills need to transform you is much more subtle. So that's where this specialists in things like NLP and hypnotherapy would walk in to help you. So success is a journey, it's a learning journey. And this journey is never a failure, because the journey is made to learn. You're going to learn a lot of things, and then you'll adapt in response to the things that you learn. Sometimes one of the adaptations would be recalibrating your final outcome, because you decided about that final outcome, the definition of success, before you learning a lot of other things. And when you learn them, sometimes the goalpost changes. This is totally fine. Is it okay to give up on a goal in the middle? Yes. It is totally okay to give up on a goal without achieving it. If you are no longer feeling comfortable about it, you no longer feel aligned with that, do something else. Just because you invested all this time and money on that doesn't mean you'll have to go through for finishing it if you don't like it anymore. This is your life. Live it. I hope you learned something. I'm Gamaka Sri, Chief Trainer and Coach for Mind Designs International. This is the third video of our success series. Take care of yourself. Jai Sri.